Flight panic exposed. CO MOCKS single dad struggles, then an unexpected hero steps up. Jack's heart raced as he sprinted through the chaotic halls of Chicago's O'Hare Airport. The overhead screens flashed canceled in bold red letters, but all he could hear was Luce's sweet voice echoing in his mind. She was waiting for him at home, and she must be so scared. He could picture her tiny face, brows furrowed, eyes wide with worry, and it made his stomach twist. He had worked tirelessly as a mechanic, with greasy hands and aching muscles, all for her. How was he going to explain this? With each hurried step, his breath came in shallow gasps. He approached the nearest gate, explaining his predicament with a desperation that made his voice crack. The gate agent tapped away at her keyboard like it was a lifeline. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the hum of the airport. "Maybe if you had planned better, you wouldn't be in this mess," sneered Marcus, clad in an expensive suit, oozing privilege. His rolling suitcase sat idle beside him, a glaring reminder of the wealth gap. Jack's chest tightened. He looked down at his worn-out jeans and grease-stained work shirt. Their worlds couldn't be more different, yet here they were, two men thrown together by circumstance. Jack swallowed hard, fighting the urge to crawl into a hole. He wanted to shout back, to defend himself, but the words tangled in his throat. Instead, he clenched his fists, determined not to lose himself in that moment. Just when hopelessness threatened to swallow him whole, a kind voice broke through. "Hey, buddy, I've been there," Sam, a silver-haired veteran, chimed in, rising from his seat. He had the face of someone who understood struggle. With empathy shining in his eyes, he shared his own tale of trying times, battles fought and lost, yet still he stood tall. The gate agent's demeanor softened, and other passengers stopped to listen. Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite inside him. But Marcus wasn't buying it. He shifted on his feet, annoyance knitting his brows. "What's your angle, old man?" he barked, crossing his arms defensively. His icy demeanor was now unmistakable, as if Sam's story had cracked a facade, revealing a man grappling with memories he'd rather forget. Jack felt the tension simmering as others began to murmur, watching this battle unfold. "Merit versus luck, huh?" Sam shot back, his voice steady. "What do you really know about hard work?" There was an electric pause, the kind that surrounded you with weight, as passengers exchanged glances. Jack stood taller now, feeling empowered by the bond forming with Sam, even as Marcus's outward calm gave way. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Jack glanced at Marcus, searching for any hint of vulnerability, but the man only looked more uncomfortable. The room buzzed with anticipation. As tension thickened the air, Jack felt a surge of determination. Was this the moment where a shift could occur? Could one act of kindness light the way home? As the chaos of the airport continued around them, both men stood on opposite sides of a widening chasm, one of privilege, one of resilience. Yet somewhere, lurking beneath layers of animosity, the question lingered, would compassion be enough to bridge their gap? Jack's heart raced as he prepared to fight not just for himself but for Lucy, for the family they had built together. Hope danced just out of reach, waiting to see how this chapter would unfold. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Jack squared his shoulders, summoning courage from somewhere deep inside. He glanced at Sam, who nodded gently, encouraging him to speak up. The older man's support was a lifeline, an unspoken reminder that sometimes all you needed was someone to stand beside you. "Listen," Jack began, his voice steadying. I know I'm not dressed for success, and maybe I didn't plan perfectly. But I'm not just some lazy dad looking for a free ride. I work hard every day to give my daughter what she needs, and today is just one of those days. Marcus rolled his eyes, the sneer still firmly planted on his face. Excuses, excuses. The world doesn't owe you anything, buddy. Get real. A murmur began among other passengers, signaling a shift. Sam stepped closer, defending Jack with an intensity that was palpable. You think hard work doesn't count? Tell me, what would you do if the tables were turned? What if you were stuck, desperate to get home to someone you love? Jack watched as Marcus's face flushed with frustration. The brief flicker of uncertainty only fueled Jack's resolve. He took a deep breath and pressed on. My daughter, she needs me. She is home alone right now, and I can't bear the thought of her thinking I abandoned her. Some passengers shifted in their seats, appearing to feel connected to his plight as they nodded thoughtfully. It was a moment of unity, an unspoken force binding them together against the arrogance that had bubbled to the surface in Marcus. But Marcus only sneered more. So what? I have my own priorities. The system works for people like me. His eyes darted away, maybe trying to mask something. Was it guilt? Jack wasn't sure, but he'd seen enough disappointment and unfairness in his life to recognize a crack when he saw one. Sam took a step forward, his voice cutting through. You know what? You're wrong. This isn't just about Jack. It's about all of us. Everyone has their battles. You don't know what he is truly going through, and neither do I. But maybe, just maybe, you could show a little compassion. Silence filled the space, heavy and emotional. The gate agent paused in her work, looking back at the small crowd that had formed. Jack felt the invisible tether of support among them, growing stronger by the second. Then, as if electrified by Sam's words, a young woman stepped out from the crowd, her own eyes shimmering with determination. I can help, she declared. I have a friend who works at a nearby airline. I can call him and see if he can get you on another flight. Jack's heart soared. Just when it seemed like the walls were closing in, here was a glimmer of hope. Gratitude washed over him, and he turned to Sam, ready to share a moment of triumph. Marcus, seemingly deflated, now appeared cornered, searching for his words. The joy that was bubbling up inside Jack was infectious. Others began to chime in, offering suggestions and assistance. But then, Marcus stepped forward, a mix of disbelief and anger crossing his features. You think it's that easy? You can't just waltz in and expect everyone to accommodate you. Life doesn't work like that. Jack felt his resolve start to falter, the bitterness of Marcus's words creeping back in. But just as he was about to buckle under the weight of despair, he glanced back at the young woman, the beacon of hope shimmering in her eyes. Why are you trying so hard for someone you barely know? Marcus demanded, his frustration bubbling over, as he glared at the supportive faces surrounding Jack. Because it matters, she replied firmly, her voice unwavering. We all deserve compassion, especially when life gets tough. And you might learn a thing or two from this, if you'd only let yourself. Jack felt a swell of strength as the atmosphere shifted again, the kindness of strangers igniting something within him. But as optimism filled the space, he couldn't shake the thought, would Marcus ever understand? Would this encounter change him, or would it only deepen the divide? As Jack fought back the tears of gratitude, he made a silent promise to protect this moment of connection, knowing that it carried the weight of many stories untold. Could they truly find common ground, or was this just the beginning of a deeper conflict? With the tension still simmering, Marcus's next words hung in the air. You really think you can just fix everything with a little kindness? Let's see how this plays out. Jack felt the heat rising in his cheeks as Marcus's words echoed around him. Dismissing the moment of solidarity with sarcasm felt like throwing salt on an open wound, but he refused to let it break him. He tightened his fists, channeling his frustration into determination. It was time to focus, not just on himself, but on the little girl waiting at home, his daughter. Around him, the atmosphere shifted again. The passengers had started responding to Marcus's biting attitude, some turning their chairs to face him, others whispering indignantly. Jack noticed sympathetic glances being exchanged. They understood him. And together, they formed a barrier against Marcus's derision. Maybe Marcus hasn't had to fight for anything in his life, a voice from the back called out, echoing Jack's thoughts. A middle-aged woman, with a face full of empathy, stepped forward. "Not all of us are so privileged," she said sharply. "It's a privilege to think the world is fair. Some of us have to fight to get what we need every day." Marcus's bravado was fading, but he wasn't done. "And what? You want everyone to play the martyr? Is that it?" His sneer twisted, and Jack could see he was losing ground, but the conversation was slipping dangerously close to venomous. "No," Sam interjected firmly, stepping closer to the younger man. "What we want is basic decency. Is that so hard to understand?" His voice carried authority, filled with an urgency that made Jack's resolve swell even more. Jack took a breath, feeling the support envelop him. He stepped forward, emboldened by the chorus of voices at his back. "You're right, Marcus. Life isn't fair," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "But it's how we treat those who are struggling that defines us. I'm here because I love my daughter, and I'll do whatever it takes to get to her. If that offends you, maybe it's time to take a long look in the mirror." A few people shifted in their seats, visibly stirred by Jack's words. Tension hung in the air, heavy and thick, punctuated by the emotional reactions brewing around them. Suddenly, the young woman who had stepped up to help pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my friend right now. No more waiting." The focus shifted to her. As she dialed, an electric charge ignited again, hope flaring back to life. "What about you, Marcus?" Another man piped up. "What's your excuse? Be honest with us. What do you really have to lose by letting a little kindness in?" For a moment, everyone waited, eyes fixed on Marcus, who seemed taken aback. They all sensed it. He was a man teetering on the precipice between bitterness and vulnerability. Jack caught a glimpse of something different in Marcus's eyes, something less hardened and more human. Was it possible he might give in? "Nothing," Marcus finally replied, his words quieter, almost uncertain. The sneer faded, leaving room for a hint of vulnerability. I just don't get it. I don't understand this willingness to help someone else." Jack locked eyes with him, feeling a flicker of compassion from deep within. "It starts with choosing to see each other as human. We're all in this together, Marcus. Just people trying to get by. Maybe you don't understand it yet, but nothing good ever comes from pushing kindness away." In that moment, every face seemed to align in solidarity, sending waves of emotional resonance through the group. Jack could almost hear the unspoken questions echoing. Could compassion truly change the course of another's life? As Marcus stood silently, searching for his next words, the gate agent's voice cut across the tension. "Attention, everyone," she announced. "The system is now ready for a new flight. I will need to prioritize the passengers who are in urgent need." Jack's heart raced. This was a chance at opening. Would this twist of fate pull him away from despair, or would it lead to new complications? As the crowd erupted into anxious chatter, he felt his own hope begin to swell. But behind it all lingered a question that wouldn't he be silenced. Would Marcus stand down, or would he push back harder when it mattered most? Jack's heart thundered in his chest as the announcement settled in. Voices merged into a cacophony of excitement and frustration. People began rising from their seats, tight knots of anxiety and hope forming among them. He barely noticed the murmurs about boarding priority, His focus was on Marcus. The younger man stood still, a storm brewing behind his eyes. Jack saw the way his lips thinned, the flicker of doubt surfacing as he shifted his weight. This was an unfamiliar ground for Marcus, a place where his bravado seemed to falter. "Look," Jack started, stepping closer, "this is a chance for everyone to get moving. No more delay. What if we step out together?" What if Marcus's laugh cut him off, harsh and raw? "And what? You think I care about any of this? I'm just fine, you know. I've got people to meet too." The old bravado was creeping back in, like weeds trying to reclaim a patch of garden. Jack held his gaze, refusing to back down. "You're not fine, Marcus. Not if you're drowning in bitterness. We could be better than this. Just think your words don't have to be weapons. You might be surprised how kindness can lighten your load." "Ugh, spare me," Marcus scoffed, crossing his arms. But there was a tremor in his voice, something Jack dared to believe was fear. "Why are you fighting this?" Jack pressed, feeling urgency travel through him. "If you think it's so easy to care, be a part of it instead of tearing it down. What do you want? Love? Compassion? You hide from it, but we won't stop pushing you away if you keep pushing us." The middle-aged woman from before stepped up, her voice ringing with conviction. "Listen, Marcus. We're all struggling in some way. Nobody's above anyone else here. Life handed you a sour deal once, but you don't have to hand that out to others." Now Jack could see the slight softening at the edges of Marcus's face. Was that recognition? Or confusion? Jack didn't care as he took a breath and steadied his posture, locked on the pivotal moment unfolding right in front of him. Just then, the gate agent returned, clipboard in hand, scanning the crowd. The atmosphere shifted again, tension tightening as anticipation rose. "I'll be calling out names soon. Please be prepared." Those words were like a lifeline. Jack took advantage of the chaos, moving closer to Marcus. "This is our moment, Marcus. You can still choose. Let go of that wall. Help become part of something meaningful." Amid the noise, an unexpected sound broke through, people whispering encouragement, voices rising in tempo. Jack sensed a collective heartbeat, everyone pushing for change, for connection. But Marcus merely shook his head, the moment slipping back into uncertainty. "I don't know how to let anyone in," he admitted quietly. The raw truth in his confession sent tremors through Jack's heart. "You start by getting on that plane with us," Jack said, hoping to break the cycle that had trapped Marcus for so long. "You'll never know what awaits unless you take that leap." As the tension hung in the air, the gate agent began calling names. Marcus hesitated, and Jack held his breath. Would he step forward into a possibility for connection, or retreat into the shadows of his own making? With every passing second, the decision loomed over them like a storm cloud, thick with unspoken words. "Will you choose the door to understanding, or stay locked in this cage?" Jack implored. But before Marcus could respond, a loud commotion erupted from the back of the line. A small child began to cry, breaking the weight of the moment and drawing everyone's focus. Jack's heart sank. Would this unexpected series of events become another obstacle or a catalyst for understanding amidst the chaos? As he turned back to seek answers from Marcus, the direction of the conversation hung in the balance. The commotion grew louder, and Jack instinctively turned toward the sound. A little girl, no older than 4, had clutched her teddy bear close to her chest, while tears streamed down her freckled face. Her mother knelt beside her, trying to console her with a few soft words, but the effort only seemed to intensify the child's distress. Hey, Jack said softly, uncertain but desperate to help. He was surprised at the swell of emotions, not just for the child, but for everything swirling around him. What was happening in Marcus's heart? Would this moment of chaos crack through Marcus's defenses? "Marcus, look!" Jack exclaimed, his voice rising above the chaos. Even in this mess, you can see what it means to connect. Look how everyone is rushing to help instinctively. They are drawn to her pain. That's life, man. That's real. Marcus's brows furrowed deeper, caught between the noise and the truth dripping from Jack's words. He glanced at the young girl, who was now sobbing into her mother's shoulder, while others rushed to help, offering their toys and sympathetic smiles. Jack went on, emboldened by something gripping his heart. We all have struggles. Yours just come out differently. But watching that little girl, it reminds me we can choose empathy over bitterness. You can still step into it. Despite his boldness, Jack felt even less secure about the situation. For all his conviction, the realities of the world felt overwhelming: labels, expectations, a swirling complexity of emotions. But watching the kindness unfold around the little girl, even in the face of anxiety and fear, left just a glimmer of hope in Jack's chest. Do you see how they're responding? Jack emphasized. People care, Marcus. We can't hide from that. You don't have to be alone. You just have to let your heart be seen. The tears in Marcus's eyes glimmered now, and Jack seized the moment, moving a step forward. What if you let go of that anger? He asked earnestly. You could join them instead of standing apart. At that moment, a man in a suit broke through the crowd, an air of authority recognizing the chaos before him. He crouched next to the sobbing child, and the atmosphere shifted again. Everyone turned their gaze toward him. Many wondered who he was, what he would do. He extended a large hand towards the girl, his voice steady and soothing as he murmured, "Hey, sweet pea. Can I help you find your dad?" It was such a simple act, yet the man's calm was contagious. The little girl's cries diminished as she looked up, her tear-filled eyes meeting his. Jack felt hope ripple through those around them. Kindness could show up in the most unexpected forms: a well-dressed stranger, a mother's warm embrace, and now a resolute hero rising from the ordinary crowd. Marcus watched, his bravado shrinking as something changed deep inside him. Jack caught a glimpse of uncertainty, a flicker that suggested Marcus was starting to reconsider, not just the moment, but his entire approach to life. Would you ever consider stepping up like that? Jack pressed, his spirit ignited by this burgeoning connection. What if you could be someone's hero? Wouldn't that be the best kind of feeling? Marcus hesitated, surrounded by the warm light of compassion filling the turmoil. Jack held his breath, sensing the gravity of this moment. Would Marcus finally find the strength to reach for connection? The stakes felt impossibly high, yet necessary. Change hung tantalizingly close. As the gate agent called another name, the noise in the terminal swelled again, drowning out the soft cries and wheeling heads searching for solutions. But for a flicker in time, it felt as if the world stood still, capturing the moment of choice. Life lived in isolation or life marked by compassion. Jack waited, heart racing, for Marcus's answer. Would he step forward, or would he once again retreat into darkness? Was this the moment Marcus chose to embrace, or would it slip away in the tide of doubt? Marcus's breath hitched as he locked eyes with the trembling girl and the steady man kneeling beside her. The chaos around them dissolved into whispers, a soft hum of the world shrinking down to this singular moment of connection. Jack watched with bated breath, feeling the weight of time pressing on his chest. Would Marcus see the truth? "Come on, Marcus," Jack murmured, a quiet plea. "You know it's not just about you. Look at her. Look at everyone here. They're ready to lend a hand. There's strength in that, in togetherness." The suit-wearing man, still crouched, softly coaxed the little girl into a gentler state. He asked her questions: her name, her favorite color, what her teddy bear's name was, and slowly, the little girl's breath evened out. A flicker of resilience sparked in Marcus's eyes, but it still felt like a distant star. Jack pressed on, almost willing Marcus to absorb the moment swirling around them. What if you reached out? He pointed to the girl, whose small face now bore traces of hope. You could do that. Be the comfort or the strength for someone else. For a moment, Marcus's gaze fell to the ground, his brow furrowing in struggle. But Jack could see the shift, the tiny cracks in the wall Marcus had built so high. Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted on the other side of the terminal. A group of travelers had begun bickering loudly over a missed connection. The tension rippled through the crowd, echoing back the anxious energy that moments ago had focused on the little girl. Instinctively, Marcus flinched, his body tensing at the sound of raised voices. "See?" Jack called out, gesturing toward the shouting people. "That's how easy it is to let anger take hold. But you don't have to. Just like this man helped that girl, you can help ease that tension too." Jack could feel Marcus's conflict crashing like a wave. He saw the anger quickly overtaking him again, but something beneath the surface was stirring. Just as Marcus began to speak, the suit-clad man stood up and made his way toward the dispute, stepping into the chaos with an air of authority that Jack had only witnessed in the bravest of souls. "Excuse me," the man called, raising his voice to cut through the clamor. "Let us take a breath and talk this out." Silence fell, astounded gasps rippling through the crowd. Jack couldn't hold back a smile as he turned to Marcus, who was watching, frozen in disbelief. This unexpected hero was standing in the middle of the noise, choosing to be a voice of reason instead of getting swept away by anger. Alongside him, Jack felt the power of connection enveloping the terminal once more. "Look at him, Marcus," he urged quietly. "He is choosing a better response. Wouldn't you want to be that person too? It's right there for you." Marcus swallowed hard, uncertainty dancing in his eyes, but beginning to melt into something else. Jack noticed the spark of recognition building. It was as if Marcus was finally seeing the path laid before him the same way the man had seen the girl in need of comfort. The energy shifted again, this time in Marcus. He draws in a deep breath, heavy and laden with doubt, but somehow emboldened. Jack felt a sense of urgency swell. Was Marcus preparing to move beyond himself? Maybe, Marcus muttered, his voice barely a whisper, but it held a promise. Suddenly, a loud shriek penetrated the air, pulling their attention back towards the little girl. A stranger who had been waiting at a distance rushed into the scene. "I'm here! I'm here!" she cried out, sweeping the girl into her arms. The sight was both heartwarming and heart-wrenching, a reminder of everything Marcus had been afraid to embrace. This was connection. This was love. Jack turned to Marcus, excitement bubbling over. "What are you going to do? There is still time." Would Marcus finally choose to act? Would he step into the fray and find his own voice, or retreat behind the walls he had built? In a terminal alive with uncertainty, it was a moment that could change everything. The crowd's murmurs faded into a heavy silence as Marcus stood at the crossroads of doubt and hope. He could feel Jack's gaze like a lifeline anchoring him, yet the path ahead felt obscured by fog. Time seemed to stretch, the chaos of the terminal fading into a backdrop of muted colors. The scene before him emerged vividly. The little girl in her mother's embrace was the anchor, tethering him to the reality of connection, of vulnerability that he had avoided for so long. He took a step forward, his heart racing, pulses of uncertainty battling against a newfound courage. All around him were people grappling with their struggles, just like he was, yet the beauty of collective humanity snaked through the air, shared emotions, desperate hopes. "Hey!" a voice rang out, pulling Marcus from his reverie. He turned to see a woman, who had been part of the noise earlier. She was now approaching the bickering travelers, her brow furrowed with concern. "Can we take a second?" yelling one to solve anything. The roar of frustration dwindled, surprised looks casting around. The travelers hesitated, the tension snapping like an overstretched thread. As their voices softened beneath the weight of her plea, Marcus's insides turned. Would he stand by, or would he join the chorus of calm? Marcus. Jack's voice broke through the haze again. This is it. Just take a step. You have the strength to do this. In that moment, a flicker ignited within him. He wasn't standing at the end of an untraveled path. He was merely on a step of it. So what if he could try? What if he could echo their sentiment, bridge the gap, soothe the stings of frustration just like the man had for the little girl? Driven by an impulse he didn't fully understand, he pushed through the crowd and toward the commotion. Each step felt monumental, a resistance to the stillness he had held onto for so long. The weight of his old thoughts began to lift, replaced by a tight coil of adrenaline. Can we all just breathe for a second? Marcus said, his voice shaky but rising above the crowd. Heads turned, surprised, awed by a man stepping up. We're all just trying to make it somewhere, right? Let us just take a moment. Murmurs of agreement wove through the crowd, the anger dissipating like mist. He caught Jack's eye, an unmistakable grin spreading across his face, emboldening Marcus even more. A flicker of pride swelled in his chest. As if guided by an instinct deeper than fear, he continued, being frustrated is okay, but letting it swallow us won't help. We can work this out. The tension around them felt palpable, air humming with anticipation. Suddenly, a voice from the back shouted, "Yeah! Let us figure out what we can do." More voices joined in, chiming in with camaraderie. Marcus stood taller, a tapestry of emotion weaving around him, the joy of participation, the blossoming warmth of connection. He had never felt so alive. And there he wasn't just participating. He was becoming a part of something bigger. As Marcus turned back to the little girl now calming in her mother's arms, overwhelmed by the tickling sensation of being seen and understood, Jack clapped him on the shoulder. You just did it, man. You held the space. But amidst the cheering and relief, Marcus's heart raced with an unshakable feeling. What was this strength inside him? Was it only the spark of a moment or something deeper, more transformative? Just then, the terminal's lights flickered, and an announcement echoed through the air. Attention, all passengers. Due to unforeseen circumstances, all flights are delayed. The air thickened with uncertainty again, a new wave crashing over the once sparkling moment. Marcus's heart dropped, questions surfacing. Would they all follow the path he had opened? How would the others respond now? His breath hitched as all eyes turned toward him, waiting silently for the next sign. The room pulsed with anticipation. Would he rise to this new challenge, or would all he had accomplished unravel? The pressure of their gaze was a charged current, waiting to see how he would lead them through the next storm. Marcus felt the weight of 1,000 eyes striking him like arrows, their expectations almost palpable. Each gaze held a flicker of hope, uncertainty, and perhaps a desperation that mirrored his own. All he could think about was how quickly the moment had shifted from a collective embrace of calm to an unfolding uncertainty, each second stretching painfully long. He clenched his fists at his sides, grounding himself. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about them, the parents wondering how they would cope, the weary commuters anxious to get home, and all the weary souls gathered in this space now waiting for answers. "All right, folks," he finally called out, finding some steadiness in his voice again. "I know we're all frustrated right now. I don't have the answers, but maybe we can figure things out together." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, and he could see glimmers of hope reflected back at him. A middle-aged man stepped forward, his expression a mixture of worry and disbelief. "All right, so what do you suggest? Just sit here endlessly? We want to know what is happening." Marcus nodded. "I get it. I'm right there with you. But getting angry won't change anything, right? How about we try to reach out to the staff for updates or organize ourselves so we can share info? Maybe we can form a sort of communication chain?" A younger woman, her face pale but determined, chimed in, "We could split into groups. Some can check the boards while others listen for announcements. Exactly, Marcus said, hardened by her involvement. Let us have people looking for updates and bringing back what they find. If we all work together, it could make a difference. As Marcus spoke, he could feel the room unwinding. People shuffled toward each other, sharing phone numbers and ideas. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he witnessed unity forming amidst chaos. Jack's approval shone in his eyes, and for a moment, Marcus felt invincible. But as laughter and camaraderie filled the air, another voice broke through, sharp and biting. Why should we trust you? You don't even work here. A man in a suit, his brows knitted together, stepped forward, disbelief painted across his face. Marcus's heart sank. He had planned for overcoming doubt, but this was new territory. I may not work here, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady, but I care about what happens to all of us. Sometimes, it takes someone on the outside to notice what needs fixing. The man squared his shoulders, clearly not buying it, and the tension reemerged. Doubts began to flicker again in the eyes of those around him. Had he pushed too far? Did they still believe he was capable of leading them through this? Jack stepped forward, his voice a beacon. He is right. We can't change what is happening, but we can control how we respond. If we spread our fears, we only multiply them. Let us take a chance on hope instead. Marcus felt a spark, grateful for Jack's unwavering support. The crowd was watching this exchange, unsure of what to believe, and he felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on him. Did he have it in him to inspire them one more time amidst this new wave of doubt? In that shimmering moment, he caught sight of the little girl again, now playfully attempting to balance her stuffed animal on her head, bringing an unexpected sense of lightness back into the air. Could he mirror that joy? Could their shared humanity rally against the tide of uncertainty? All right, everyone, Marcus said, his voice significantly steadier now. Let us choose to be a community. Who can help coordinate the groups and keep the spirit alive? Hands started going up, and Marcus let out a sigh of relief, hope flickering back on. And just as the tension began to dissolve, another announcement crackled over the intercom. Attention, all passengers, the airport staff is now available to provide updates at the service desk. The crowd around Marcus erupted into a buzz of activity once more, but he felt a knot twist in his stomach. Were they ready to follow through? Could he keep leading this charge, even with the shadows closing in around them? He found himself questioning if he could continue to be their unexpected beacon of hope amidst all the stormy uncertainty, eager yet anxious about the road ahead. What if the next obstacle was something he couldn't face alone? The crowd sprang into motion, eager to act on Marcus's call for unity. Some rushed toward the service desk, while others formed small groups to share information. The air buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Marcus felt the adrenaline coursing through him, lifting his spirits. But doubt still plagued him. What if they all put their hopes in him, and he let them down? He glanced around, observing the determined faces, some hopeful, others still wary. Fighting back a tremor of uncertainty, Marcus turned back to Jack, who was already organizing a small team and waving his phone to rally a few more people. Let us check if anyone has got a connection with the staff, Jack said, his voice steady. We need accurate updates if we're going to navigate through this mess. As Marcus stepped closer to Jack, he overheard snippets of conversations. I heard it might be hours, one woman lamented. The flight is indefinitely delayed, another muttered, frustration spilling into her tone. The uncertainty kept swirling, but amidst it, something deeper began to suffocate him, fear. Listen, Marcus called out, raising his hand to grab everyone's attention. I know things seem daunting right now, but our strength lies in how we support one another. If we channel our frustration into action, we can manage this together. A few heads nodded, as if his words had sunk in. Then came another announcement over the PA system, but this time it was a disheartening message about delays and vague apologies that echoed through the airport. Gasps and mutters rippled through the crowd. A woman near the front began to cry. Marcus's heart sank as he watched her grip her child's hand tightly, her hope visibly crumbling. He felt a tugging at the corners of his heart. It made the knot in his stomach twist even tighter. "Hey," he said, striding through the uncertain sea of people until he came to the woman. "It's all right. We're going to get through this. Our kids are watching how we respond. Let us show them that we can be strong together." With those words, he reached out to gently touch her shoulder. She looked up, confusion in her eyes, but he could see the flicker of something understanding, maybe even trust. A young boy stood close to her, watching his mom. He clutched a toy airplane just like the ones that hung from the ceiling above them. "Look, buddy," Marcus said, kneeling down so he was eye level with the boy. "You're a little pilot, right? Pilots always find their way home, no matter how many detours they have to take." A smile broke through the tears as the boy nodded, his small voice breaking out. "Yeah. I want to fly home." The mother blinked in surprise, her tears slowing. "I just want to get home too," she admitted, voice trembling. "I know," Marcus said gently. "And we will. Let us keep that hope alive." He looked around the crowd again, sensing the shift. He could feel it, a collective strength rising, and at least for now, it overshadowed the doubts. Jack appeared beside him, panting slightly. "People are excited to help. We've got heads up from a couple of the staff there's a chance some flights might be rerouted, so they're looking for volunteers to manage communication over there." Marcus nodded, a rush of relief mingling with determination. Together, they began to reinvigorate the energy of the crowd. Just when he thought they were aligned with purpose, the sound of raucous laughter caught his attention. A group of bystanders up ahead, pulling at their phones, seemed to be getting attention from someone outside. Curiosity sparked tension again. "What is happening up there?" he mumbled, moving toward the growing noise, pulse quickening. He couldn't shake the feeling they were about to face something big. Something that could either shatter their fragile togetherness or fuse it into an unbreakable bond. Was it possible that another obstacle could arise right now, when they were finally gripping the hope they needed? What lay ahead for them, and could he continue to be the leader they called for in times of chaos? Marcus felt a swell of determination as he pushed through the gathering crowd, drawn toward the laughter echoing in the chaos. With every step, he could feel Jack's support right behind him, steady and powerful, pushing forward as if they were fighting together against the tide of uncertainty that had enveloped them. Around them, whispers of speculation filled the air. "What is going on up there?" someone asked, eyes wide with curiosity. As he began to weave through the throngs of anxious travelers, Marcus couldn't help but hold onto the small flicker of hope he had ignited earlier. If he and the others could navigate this moment together, maybe they could transcend the barriers that had kept them apart for so long. When Marcus reached the front, he found a group of passengers crowding around a television screen hanging from the wall. The news showed footage from the weather station. Aerial shots displayed a storm brewing just outside the airport, threatening the entire airspace. "Looks like we might get some storms coming through," a man muttered, his voice heavy with doubt. "This is just what we need." But before anxiety tightened its grip, Marcus leaned in, his voice steady as he spoke. "Let us give it some time. We knew something like this could happen. It's how we handle it that matters now. This storm isn't just a barrier. It could also be a chance for us to come together." He felt a gentle reassurance from Jack, who stepped closer, helping to rally the group back together. "Channel that frustration. We're still in this as a team. How about we focus on what we can control right now? Is anyone able to reach out to more staff for updates?" Lifting their heads from the screen, people began to nod, coming out of the shadows of uncertainty. They began exchanging numbers, and forming plans to utilize different communication methods. A sudden rush of camaraderie igniting in the air. In that moment, Marcus began to see something shift within him. He had faced his own storm, learned to navigate through the tumult alone, but here, with a group of strangers turned friends, he felt something distinctly different. He had stepped into the role of a leader, a guide, and with each kind word and every piece of understanding exchanged, he discovered a freedom he hadn't known he craved. Suddenly, the woman with the little boy stepped forward again, this time a flicker of determination lighting her face. "I can make calls. I have friends at a different airport that might have information," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Let me see what I can do." Her courage acted like a catalyst. One after another, people began offering their phones, their connections, their time, even their shoulders for support, transforming the anxious desperation into a sense of collective strength. Children who had been weeping found laughter again, playing on the floor with their toys, mirroring the hopeful buoyancy building around them. "Look at that," Marcus said with a grin, gesturing towards the kids. "They remind us that even in a storm, there is still a chance to play. Your kids are watching how you choose to respond." The parents' eyes sparkled, sensing this shift too. Encouragement rippled through the crowd. He looked over at Jack, who was glowing, pride written all over his face. Together, they drew from one another as strength, and somehow, in the face of uncertainty, they were weaving something beautiful. The storm might rage outside, but within this airport terminal, they had begun to create their own sunshine. But before Marcus could fully embrace the transformation, a loud voice pierced the hum of solidarity. "What a joke! You think this is going to solve anything?" An irate passenger yelled, rolling his eyes, as he pointed at Marcus. "A bunch of people holding hands doesn't get flights off the ground." Marcus felt the hurtling weight of doubt push back in, but without missing a beat, he raised his chin. "It might not get flights off the ground, but it gets hearts up off the ground. That's where it starts." He could feel the group's energy shift, the people around him, steadfast in their resolve, united by a shared purpose. And just like that, the tension began to dissipate again. "You're right," Jack chimed in, stepping closer to Marcus, their bond solidifying. "What we're doing isn't just about flights. It's about supporting one another, creating connections. That's how we work through uncertainty." Laughter erupted. "You make it sound so easy," one traveler called out, smirking, but in their eyes, there was clarity, the seeds of understanding planted deep in the fertile ground opened by this moment together. "Life isn't easy," Marcus replied, his spirits rising again. "But we can choose how we respond to each turn that comes our way. Let us show all those watching us that we can embrace longevity and kindness. We can learn, we can raise each other up, no matter how difficult the times get." With those words, the crowd began to cheer, support swirling around as they united in faith, daring to believe in a better tomorrow. In that terminal, a new understanding blossomed. The storm on the horizon only strengthened their resolve. Together, they were stronger than any struggle that could arise. Standing there, with Jack and the families around him, Marcus knew this was not just a moment, it was a powerful turning point, a catalyst for change in their lives and perhaps even in the hearts of those like Marcus, who had hidden from kindness for too long. And so, the storm would be weathered not alone but together, and maybe, just maybe, that unexpected inner hero he had been waiting for had been waking up inside him all along. As the announcements began to sound clearer, and hope filled the air, Marcus took a breath and smiled. This was just the beginning. Don't wait. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to never miss the next exclusive story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and keep these inspiring tales coming your way. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And, most importantly, share this video instantly with 5 friends who need to see this transformation and understand the true power of kindness. Let us spread the strength of connection across the world.